Hey, Andrew, glad you found it. Let's see if I can get this linked to everybody else, because that's fun times. To find the link first. So there's the new stream. I need to edit this. Okay, good. I've got a couple of you here. So it wasn't simply like power outage or anything, and that also just let me know I 100% am getting a battery backup this week for that computer. I hadn't even thought of getting one for this one. That would have solved me from losing the stream. I blew a fuse. No big. It occasionally happens, not super often, but every once in a while it'll happen with the hairdryer. It's the only thing plugged in over there, but whatever. That is my life. So let me then. Can you guys do me a huge favor? Take this new stream and link it everywhere you can, like whatever social media, because I need to try to get this. I'm going to edit the, let's see, fun times. Content. Yeah, I'm pretty sure if I wouldn't have lost power on the computer, I would have been fine. The rest of it would have been annoying, but I wouldn't have lost the stream. So lesson learned, I will fix that. My actual concern, I don't know if I lost, hold on, did I lose that? I think I lost the first half of that recording. Yeah, it didn't finish properly. So wait, did it? It might have. Maybe it'll make it so I can edit it properly. Okay, so that is there. Let's save that. Let me go to comments. I apologize for taking the time to do this, but I want to make sure people can find it. I say stream crashed, but that's not totally, I mean, I guess it did, but it wasn't like YouTube's fault here. I cannot blame YouTube for that. Okay, let's pin that. Hopefully people will find it. And I think we are good. Let's see. Yeah, Lavina, that would be my backup, is to download what's on YouTube. It wouldn't be as good, but it would certainly be my backup plan. Let's see. It's out there and it's switching. Okay, good. And it's that I record to my computer, so it's like a different type of file. So it's kind of a weird, but I think we'll be good. Okay, we should be back and ready to go now. I think we are good, and hopefully I don't blow that fuse again. Really annoying. Okay, here we are. We are back. And again, if the chat is still going on the other one, if you guys can, I don't know, just direct everyone here. Okay, so good news is that's dry now, but I also have to fix the lighting. Let me easel. That camera is now too dark again because it always defaults back to whatever nonsense it wants to. Whoop, too dark. There we go. Oh, that's kind of perfect. Yay. Okay. Got you. And I think the hound cam is overexposed again. Let's configure them really quick. That is more like what they look like over there. Okay, I think we are ready to continue. And yeah, I will definitely be investing. I'm trying super hard. So side story before I get started here. I'm really trying not to spend money on anything I don't absolutely need to, because I spent way too much. Forgot to tell you guys last week, the new Buddy Studio assistant I got, my office buddy, is a canary, and he's adorable. He's over, you can see him on Instagram on my stories, and on MeWe. But I spent way too much money getting all, like upgrading the cage, upgrading everything for him so he has the happiest life I can give him. And I had the $1,600 Vistaprint order. Like, I spent so much last month that this month I have a personal challenge to not spend any money on anything I don't absolutely need. But obviously I'm gonna need that backup power supply. I guess I could steal it off the other computer, but that seems like a bad idea too. So anyway, we will be doing that. Yes, please hit the like button. Help me out on this because I just lost like half the viewers who had been here, and that's very, very sad. Also, while I'm at it, huge, if you guys could do me a huge, huge favor, and this, every artist that you follow on YouTube, we all need this help right now. YouTube doesn't share our content anymore. I used to average 4,000 new subscribers a month. You know how many I get now? 300. This last 28 days, 300. That's not sustainable. If I can't find and can't reach new people to teach, like I can't grow. I can't, Patreon is directly related to how many new people find me on YouTube. And I can't, like, the low cost Patreon lessons are because I can find so many people through YouTube. We can't find them anymore because YouTube is not pushing our content to people. Lessons like art lesson, art tutorial style, things like what I do, they do not rank well anymore on YouTube. Drama stuff like vlogging, that sort of thing will rank, but it's like, that's not what I do. I teach. So if you could please, and all of us, it's not just me, we all need help because YouTube's search function sucks now. Like you can do a search for an art lesson, a specific like oil painting art lesson, and the chances of you finding what you are looking for are very, very low. They'll show you like 6 and then they start showing of what you search for. And the rest are, well, here's something related, here's suggested, here's this, but not like you used to be able to just scroll through page after page after page of lessons and find what you wanted to do. You can't do it anymore. We need your help. The only way that we are going to, artists who are doing tutorials are going to be able to succeed is if you as viewers share on Facebook, share on, I know I hate Facebook, but share on MeWe, share on Instagram, anywhere that you are, if you can just let people know, share our videos. If there was a lesson you liked, share it in a group, share it in a Facebook art group. Facebook, and you would think, well, why don't you share it? Because if I share my own content, Facebook will restrict it even further than they already do. That's actually one of their rules. Like if I on my page post my video and then I share it, gets seen even less. Like it is a disaster. Like Facebook's bad. But if you share it, I've got a much better chance of reaching more people who would like to follow these lessons. So it will, like, they're all, everything's just tied together, and we need, all of the artists here who do tutorials need your help. The more you can share, even if you share and you don't have a lot of people who are artists who you think would be interested, it still helps us because Facebook's like, oh, somebody shared this post, therefore I'll share it to more people. We'll let it push out. Their algorithm is a nightmare. But yeah, the way that YouTube's algorithm is going, it is very, very hard to find new people unless you're creating that more drama, more entertainment style content, which is not what I do. I teach. So yes, I need your help. We all need your help. Yeah, so let's go ahead and get back to this. And then again, leave any art questions you have. I'll be answering those at the end of the video. So now it's time to start pulling in these orange colors. Let's see if I can move through this quickly because we are behind now. So I'm actually using orange Liquitex. Now the orange with Liquitex Basics is extremely translucent. Like it is not a highly pigmented color, but I love it for glazing because it is so translucent. Well, too orange there. I'm going to add some deep violet to it, but it's so translucent that it's wonderful for glazing. So even though, like if I wanted something, let's say I'm painting an orange flower and I want it really orange, I'm gonna mix it with yellow and red. But if I am looking for just tinting the color like I'm doing here, I really like it for glazes. So that's why I still buy it, even though like if I'm looking for orange, normally I mix my own. I'm just gonna lightly go over that. Now I'm going to start pulling a little bit of white right in here where we're going to put that brighter sun. We've got a little bit of clouds, so we can just kind of put some poofs in there. I'm not really going to blend those out. I want them to look like clouds. Remember, our palm trees are going to cover most of this. And then I'll brighten up where the yellow is going to go in just a moment here. Thank you guys so much for sharing. And this is an ongoing request. All of us here on YouTube who teach lessons, I want to reach as many people. And not just so that I get more on Patreon so I can pay my own bills, but also I want to help more people paint. And it's getting really hard to do because this form of content YouTube doesn't push because their algorithm doesn't favor us anymore. It's really, really a challenge. Now, if it's a little bit rough, I'm just going to take my brush right around the edge, soften that up so it pulls out. And I can layer this to get it brighter and brighter as I go. It doesn't have to be perfect the first time through. I'm going to take a separate brush, dip it in water, and I'm just going to smudge that out just a bit. If you have too much water for the smudging brush, it will work as an eraser, so be careful. You don't want too much. So what I'm doing here is wet into wet blending. I'm blending wet paint into wet paint, and that's what's giving me that super soft look. Now I'm just blending the edges. That's the other thing. Notice as I do this, I am focusing more on just kind of dabbing those edges. What you don't want to do is take this to blend and start stirring and mixing circles right in the whole area you're blending, because what will happen is you'll end up with an outer heavy ring. And if you have done that, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This ring, it's like empty in the center, but the ring around the edge, and it's not cute. It's because you just want the outer edge. Just dab just a little bit. That's all I need to do. I don't even want to use the hairdryer right now. I'm a little hesitant on that. Ugh, that's scary. I don't have an extension cord. Like, I need this to dry faster. You know, I'm going to leave it. I'm not chancing it. We're just going to have to deal without the hairdryer for tonight, because I don't know what, although it doesn't usually keep happening. Usually when it happens, it's like a one-off and then it doesn't happen again the rest of the night. But I'm a little paranoid right now. Okay. While I'm just going to leave that because I do need to make this brighter, but I'm going to let it air dry. So in the meantime, what I am going to do is start putting in the waterline. Now, one of the things, if you look at this reference photo, this is one I found on Pixabay, the waterline is slightly at an angle because that's how the photographer took it. Fine for using as a reference photo. Do not paint it that way. It needs to be the same. It needs to be even all the way across. If you paint your waterline so it's like slightly like this, nope, it's bad. It's not creative, it's not artsy, it's just bad. So we don't want to do that. What I like to do is decide where I want my line. We'll use the back of my Frederick's. Let's rip this. Let's say I want it to be about right here. And I'm going to do the same thing over here so I know that is the point. And I'm just going to make a little mark. Usually I would use a little pencil, but I don't want, my canvas is wet, so I'm using alternative techniques today. Let's just take a little line here. And I'm going to line that up with the bottom of the canvas. And I'm just going to put my line where the water is going to go here. Here and here. That way I can go ahead and connect those lines. Now, what I can do, normally I would put a piece of tape, but again, it's wet, can't do that right now. So one of the things that I can do, let me grab, oh, hold on. Can't find the new stream, a link. Did you find it? If you refresh my page, Nick, oh, but you're probably not watching. Joseph, can you link it to Nick if, no, he's here. Oh, did I log me out? What is going on right now? Hold on. Discord, don't act up. This is not the night for that. Okay, Nick got it. We are good. That notification came in really late. Okay, hold on. This is a piece of sandpaper, or sanded paper, but it's long enough, it should work fine. So what I'm going to do, just so I get a nice straight, or at least straight-ish line, is I can just hold that right on over, line up my little lines. There we go. Now I've got a relatively straight line, not there, so now right there, that's where one of my little mountains is going to go. Okay, and we have, oh, I have to say it quietly. Rob, thank you so much. So in case it scared Gibson and Wade when the interwebs fell over. Excuse you, no, go lay down. I didn't say the word lay down. Nope, we're gonna learn the rules. Lay down. Did you see that? Down. They know still, look at them. We know it's gonna happen anyway. Okay, you want your super chat from Rob? Okay, come. You can come. Like, I don't know, you sent us back last time. Okay, you get your super chat treat. See, thank you, Rob. He thinks you might have gotten scared. So we weren't scared. Very brave boys. Good boys. Oh, the drool from... Thank God. See, this is why when you have this many pets, tile floors are just a godsend. Okay, go lay down. Say, thank you very much, Rob. Lay down. Lay down. You can keep going. You can walk and chew. Boys, they've not been listening today. They've definitely both been in this, meh, we're going to do what we want today mood. The love or joys of sight hounds. Very stubborn breed. Thank you so much, Rob. Okay. So let's go back to adding our water. And I can go ahead and just come down there now. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect because, like, we want it straight, but it doesn't have to, like, right here, no big deal where it got under the paper, because I'm going to be putting mountains in there. So that I'll just put a mountain in there. When something like that happens in your painting, don't freak out or worry, just work it into it. Like, well, technically, if it was dry, I could just wipe it off. It's not, so I've got a few different rules tonight on how I'm doing this. Okay, I'm gonna grab, let's see, some white. We'll grab some of the pink we used earlier, the peach, get a little bit of everything in there. And I just want to let it go side to side. I'm not gonna make all the tiny, tiny ripples that are in the reference photo, but I do want to get the general lights and darks and get some of that transition of color. Some more white and some yellow. Now, luckily, all the colors I'm using today, they work really well together. So if you smudge too much orange with too much purple, it doesn't matter, they work. You're not going to create an ugly, muddy mess. It works really well. Whereas let's say I was using a lot of blue in the sky along with these colors, that now makes it more challenging because the blue can certainly make things look very not cute if you don't quite get it right. I'm not saying don't ever use blue in combination. I'm just saying it's a little bit more of a challenge, whereas these colors, if they mix in a way you weren't totally intending, they're all going to work fine. So that is with any of these purples, oranges, yellows, magenta. Let's get some more of the white. Actually, I'm going to wipe some of the brush. I've got a lot of paint on there, so it's a little bit too... Actually, let's grab a clean brush. So this brush here, this is kind of, you can see it's a little bit fluffy, a little bit frayed. I want to grab a brush that is in better condition. See how the bristles are like flatter? This is a brush I haven't used as much because I haven't had as much chance to ruin it. Let's go ahead and reload that for my brighter highlights. Now, if this is too wet, it won't get white enough, and I would just let it dry and come back. But nope, we're good. And I'm just going to do these little lines. We get whiter and whiter as we move our way forward. This is where the sun is going to be reflecting. And I'm just making side-to-side streaks. I don't want just straight lines. See how it's a bunch of little ones? So it starts looking more like ripples in the water. And I'm going to move my way back. And it gets smaller, thinner and thinner as it moves back. And I will end up pulling yellow around the edges once this dries. But like I said, I'm kind of afraid to use the hairdryer tonight because I don't need this live stream starting over twice. So we're just going to have to deal with letting it air dry and kind of skip around a little more than I might normally. Now I'm also going to go ahead and lighten this up. I'm going to take this brush, it's a little bit damp. Oh, no, it's almost dry. Let's make it a little damp. And just smudge those edges out. It's a little bit too wet. I can tell because it's spreading too much. Let's dry a little off. Then I'll be putting white or yellow over that when it dries. Why not just use yellow now? Because if I just did yellow without the white, it's not going to be as bold or bright. Yellow is so translucent. So by putting white, when I put the yellow over it, it will glow. It'll just be in your face yellow. Someone should really let me name the colors. In your face yellow. I think I'd be good at it. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead now and get my hint of, let's see. Now, the reference photo has more of the purple down here. I am really liking my orange. I'm going to leave mine more like on fire orange. I think is gorgeous, and I think I like it better. So mine will be a little different than the reference photo. So this is why you want to wait to bid, which you still can do. Link is in the description, but you never know if I may change something. Okay, and this looks super like too much purple, too just open. We're going to cover that with palm trees. I'm going to get a few little guys in here, and same thing, I'm just going to soften that out. I want to lighten that up a bit more. I love these lavender, like magentas, purples, and oranges together. It always looks so pretty. And I can glaze a little bit more peach or orange over this when it dries if it needs it. I don't know that it will though. I'm really liking how it is. Just a few side-to-side highlights, and then I'm gonna smudge that out. And when you smudge things out, don't overblend. If you keep reworking it, you're gonna end up with a hot mess. It's just, you end up with one medium color instead of your definite lights and darks. I want both in there. Okay, let's get some of those, wipe the paint off the brush first. Now I'm going to just use, I'm going to mix a lot of orange, some white. I just wanted a few shades darker than what my background color is here. Now in the reference photo, it's got more of the purple, but because I'm not putting that much of the purple down into the orange, I want to pull orange into mine. This may not be the right color. Nope, I need to go darker than that. So let's actually pull some red into it and a little bit of magenta. Let's see if that's better. Yeah, that looks like it might work. Let's go a little bit darker still. Adding a little bit of yellow into that. Okay, and I'm just going to get the hint of some mountains in the background. But the reason that I'm not just going straight with the purples is because I just want a little bit darker than what my sky is. We want to make it look like it's just fading into that background. And then the same thing here. Just very subtle. I can go a little bit darker. I'm going to pull a little bit more purple around the edge. And I'm not trying to copy the mountain scene exactly. Now, if you were doing a specific location, you knew this place, you went on vacation, you saw it, then you're going to copy your mountains exactly. But in something like this, I have no idea where this is. I'm just making a cute, pretty beach scene. Darken that edge as well. Just let that kind of fade into the water. Soften that edge with the water line. So I'm just working that brush right back and forth between that orangish purpley mountain and the water. Now mine may look a little bit lopsided just because of the angle that the camera is, but it is straight. So we're gonna let that dry. I've definitely, needs to dry a little bit more before I get into the yellows. Now, if you look at the reference photo, you can definitely see the lightness, like the hint of grass and such in the, I'm not doing that. Mine's just gonna be a silhouette. So I'm just gonna go ahead and paint that black now. Or black, I can lighten it up a little bit with some oranges and purples. It doesn't need to be straight black, but I'm not gonna be putting that level of detail into this. It doesn't need it for the look I'm going for. So we've got some of that purple. I'll even pull some red and orange. I just am making kind of a muddy color so it's not just flat black yet. And the edge is more, looks like it's a little grassy cliff between here and the water that it's overlooking. Now this line does not need to be perfectly straight. That's different. This is just kind of a cliff or ledge that's overlooking the water. But that line back here, this is the one you want to make sure it's even and not lopsided. This here is a little bit different. And I've had people ask why I don't just tape this board down so it doesn't move. I have, and the problem is that sometimes the tape will rip the back paper that's on here, and I hate how that looks. So, I mean, an alternative would be to put a piece of paper, like butcher's paper or something like that. You could use that and cover the back, or just a piece of white art paper and recover it. So, I mean, that is an option, but that is a lot of extra work I don't want to do. So I just deal with it moving around. I don't like, that's one of the reasons I don't like canvas boards like this for oil painting because it's wet. Like here, this is mostly dry. I can touch it safely. Oops, I'm off camera. I'm going to take a stiff brush just so it looks kind of grassy. I'm going to go around the edges there. This brush may not end up being stiff enough. We'll see. I may have to switch. Oops, I got white in there. That'll work. So I just want it to look kind of grassy, bushes, little hint of that here. So my edge isn't too perfectly smooth. This is not the best brush. It's a little too soft, so it's not giving me the pokey look that I want. If you damage your brushes, never throw them away because a damaged brush, a more damaged brush would work way better for what I'm doing here. It would go faster. It's not that the end result would necessarily be better, it would just be faster. Like right now I'm having to rework that a few times just to get that softer edge because it is too bendy, too soft, too not damaged. Okay, let's try. Go. Is that dry enough? I think I can probably lightly glaze if I'm careful. Worst case scenario, it lifts. I put white, I let it dry, I do it again. So I'm just going to take some of my yellow and I thin that out with water, of course, like always. I'm going to go right around my edges. Oh, that's perfect. Let's really get that glow. I'm going to go over all of this and just pull white back in the very brightest portions. And then the white or the yellow here, we're just going to go right on the edges. I'm going to pull that into the purple as well. And it just gives it that beautiful, like on fire glow. Okay. Tea. I need tea. What do you guys drink when you paint? Let me know. So I'm going to brighten up my white a little bit more, and then we get to start the palm trees, which is my favorite part. Well, I don't know. The sunset part's pretty fun. Just a little bit more in here to brighten up, and that's it. So sky is done. Ooh, I love how this is coming out. So as frustrating as the power outage, I say power outage, no. As frustrating as it was that I blew a fuse because I don't have a backup battery like I should, getting it this week. Like when the stream is over, I'm ordering one. I'm really happy with how this is coming out. So it's not a bad night. Now palm trees. So the first thing that I do with palm trees, I'm just going to paint in where I want their trunks to be. I don't think I want this brush. A little bit larger would be good. And those of you who are iced tea, you do sugar, honey, nothing. Mine has nothing in it. But it's flavored. Mine is blackberry sage iced tea. So good. But no sugar or anything, and it is amazing. It actually tastes weird if I put sugar in this one. Okay, so what I want to do is just kind of figure out maybe a palm tree starts here and it ends down here. And then so I've got my two dots, and now all I have to do is connect them. And I'm going to push harder with that brush as I go down, and it makes the trunk larger. The more pressure you add to your brush, the thicker your line is. So see, I didn't even have to turn the brush. I didn't have to do anything other than don't push as hard. And as I move down, push harder and harder, and that thickens up that line. And of course, I'm thinning my black paint. This is Mars Black, and I am thinning it with a bit of water. I want one here is going to be shorter. So here, you're going to end here. Same thing, don't push as hard, harder, harder, and then there you go. This one actually goes off the page. We'll pull you down further. And I'm just going to smudge this so it kind of fades out into that lighter background. Since it's sort of a silhouette, but not totally. And let's go here. We've got one that is going to be here, and it comes up to, we'll say about here. To here. I'm going to reload that brush so I've got lots of paint on there. Not a lot of pressure, adding more. as I move down. And I don't need this perfectly straight. Palm trees are not, like, they're bendy. Okay, we've got another one that's going to come here to maybe here. There's 3 that come out of this section. One's way off, going to go off screen there, and then a small one here. So let's go ahead and connect those now. But see, I'm doing connect the dot. I don't need to sit and draw out this perfectly shaped tree, but if I just do random lines, chances are they're not going to be in the right place. By dotting where I want it, now I just have to connect the lines. Add more and more pressure. That tree's got a lump. Same thing. A chunk of paint I need to pick out there. Stop helping. Get out. 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 Good enough. Now, one thing I do want to show you too, look at my palette. See how much paint I have out? This is way too much paint. The reason that I have such thick chunks of paint out is half of it was old paint. And I just haven't peeled it up. Less than half of what I have out is what I need. We have a tendency, and this is an example of putting way too much paint on our palette. It doesn't take that much. I'm going to use more for my base layers, but I mean all the yellow, the orange, I have way too much paint out. So save your money, save your paint. Don't put quite that much out on your palette. And then this one just kind of disappears here. It's a little closer on the reference photo, but mine's out a little bit. And those are the trees I'm going to add. Actually, and I've got a little guy back here. He's just a little one, so I'm not going to bother with the dots. Okay. Next, I am going to switch to a round brush, and now I'm going to paint in just the line. So I'm basically doing stick figures right now. Keep it easy. I'm going to do the lines of where these are going to connect. I just want a nice round brush. Come on, I know I have one of you in here. Ah, I'm being attacked by paint that's not being used. Someone's jealous. Okay, where are my rounds? I know I've got some over here. I have to. I always do. Oh, here's one. No, you're kind of thick though. A little bit too thick for what I need. There's a specific brush I'm looking for, and it is hiding from me. It's like this super cheap generic brush that I love. I don't like, it's so generic it doesn't even have a name on it at all. I don't even know where it's from. Oh well, this one will have to work. I'll just have to use a lighter hand to keep a thinner line. I may switch to a liner, we'll see. So now I'm just going to make my little palm fronds stick out from there. This is going to look terrible right now. That's fine. But notice that they're different size. They've got to go different angles. Some have to come down. Get some variation. Make sure that some of these are overlapping. Aw, that looks really sad. We'll make him happy. Don't worry. Make sure when I look at my reference photo, some of these are overlapping behind that trunk, so we'll get a few of them long enough to do that. Palm trees are one of my favorite things to paint because they're so easy to make look really good. I mean, not now. This doesn't look good, but it will, I promise. This guy's really poofy. Some of these just go straight up. And I can always add more if I need later. I'm just going to do that on all of these guys now. See how they have to overlap. That is so important on this painting. Now, if you look at the reference photo, it does get a little bit fancier where you've got more of a glow with the orange on the trunk. I'm not doing that. We're going to keep, this one is just simple silhouette. But you can get crazy if you really look closely. If you zoom in, you can see hints of orange from the sunset hitting the trees. So that is certainly something that you can do if you want to spend a bit more time on yours. And this definitely, a lot of this tree goes right off the canvas. This whole area gets really dark. That one actually would go to that tree. See, some of these have to go down towards the trunk. Make sure you're getting those. It looks like we've got some that are coming off the canvas from this side, so we'll just get a few hanging down there. Okay, so there is our really absolutely horrendous looking, but correct, palm trees. Now is when we make them look good. You've got two options. You can use a liner brush. I'm going to show you both ways that I would do this, or the way that I'm going to do most of this is with a rake brush. So what a rake brush is, if you're not familiar with it, it looks like, in this case, and I prefer the tack-on bristle. I almost never want flat rake brushes. They're just too unnatural looking. So it's slightly rounded. But what I have here is essentially a brush. So here's like your normal tack-on bristle brush. There's your rake brush. It's just, there's like splits in between there. So one brush stroke, I get a whole lot of little lines. Now the liner brush certainly gives me more control. The rake brush goes so fast. So I'll show you with both methods. So if you don't have the rake brush, we'll start with the liner. And this still doesn't even take that long with the liner. But you would just come from the inside, just pick one of any one, let's say this one, and just come down and curve. Don't make straight lines. If these are too straight, they don't look very good. I'm going to do a very slight curve. And I push harder here as I'm in the inside, lighten it up as I pull away from that center. And then this guy actually has somewhere you see on the other side as well. Nope. Now, if your canvas, it starts getting kind of bumpy where, like I was seeing here, I need to add more paint and more water to my brush. Oh, maybe a little bit too much there. There we go. So there is the method with just using a liner brush. Oh, this is a pretty one. This is another one that I could see on my own wall. Of course, I'm obsessed with all things ocean, so there's that. So when you load your rake brush, this is very similar to loading a liner brush. It's basically just a lot of little liner brushes. I have to thin that with a decent amount of water. If I don't have enough water, or if I have too much, it's just not going to work well. So I'm thinning that with water. I'll end up wiping some of that off, and I'll test it on, just test the bottom of my easel, that works. So now, with that rake brush, I can create really quickly a bunch of those little lines. You can always come back with your liner brush, which I usually recommend, and add a few little individuals that you've controlled more. But you've got to find, and this is the challenge with the rake brush, you've got to find the right balance of how much water versus how much paint. And as I go, you see I'll do a couple brush strokes and I quickly realize I don't have that balance right. It's not an issue of once you learn it, you're always going to have it perfect. You have to kind of test as you continue loading the brush. Every time it may be a little bit off. And I mostly pick one side and pull down, but occasionally a little bit off the other end, just so you get some variation in angle so that they're not all flat. Don't overdo this. I would rather you do not enough and have to go back and add more than make it too solid dark black and not have enough of your sky show through. We need these bits of sky showing through there. And if you overload that brush like I just did, see, too solid. I need to wipe some off. And then we're just going to continue that around the others. Just a lot of reloading. I dip the brush in the water, then thin the paint again. And this one is a 1/2 inch silver ruby satin. I don't know, I got it on Amazon. I'm not sure if I have the link to this one in the description. If not, I'll add it later. So this one I'm going to have coming out from both sides. I don't like how poof just that one is. So I'm going to add another over here. There we go. That looks better. So you can always add more if you need to. And you can really see now why I needed the background to be a little bit lighter, because if I went too dark, you're just not going to see these palm fronds. What I would have to do if I went too dark, like if my background was really dark, I would have more of the highlights from the sunset reflecting on the palm trees to make them stand out more. So it's not that that can't work, it just adds another step or another element that you would want to include. Again, you can bid on this over on my website. Link is in the description if you want this guy hanging on your wall. It is an 8x10. And for those of you, for the last group of paintings, the seashell, glitch, and the cat went out yesterday. So everyone should be getting those that order those in the next couple of days. They all went out priority, so it shouldn't take long. This is another one. I don't like how it's straight up, so let's just add a little guy back over here. Although most of that's going to get covered when this one comes in, so I guess it doesn't really matter. Also, those of you who are waiting for your Patreon postcards, the March that should go out in April, the April that should go out in May, I just finished labeling those, the last of that batch this morning, just waiting on stamps, and those will be out shortly. Getting caught up on everything. You can see I'm jumping around too. It doesn't even matter. Like normally I tell you focus on one little area. Just pick a stem that you put on there and add the leaves. Those are not the right terms for a palm frond, but whatever. And this whole area is just a very dark kind of blob with hints of purple showing through. So just make sure you don't cover all the purple. And this painting was one that you guys had requested. So if you have more requests, I've been writing those down or keeping those for future live streams. Next week is going to be a seahorse in watercolor. So this one's coming the opposite direction. It might be watercolor pencils. We'll see. And see, as I fill this in, you don't see a lot. I mean, there's a lot of globs of black, but you need a lot of the purple showing through too. Don't just make it one solid glob. That looks good. This guy over here needs a little bit more. That looks better. There we go. That is it. Now I need to sign it. You can see I'm not, oh, good question. Rob asked, how much pressure am I putting on this brush? Not much. You use it just like you would a liner brush. You don't push very hard with a liner brush. We want to get those thin lines. Now, this one brush, if you push harder, it just turns it into a regular old filbert brush, not a rake brush. For it to like activate the rake brush features of it, very light hand. I am not pushing hard at all. Oh, I need to sign this, but we have from Tessa, who it's her fault that she got me teaching the dogs initially. Well, they started learning what Tessa meant. Now, let's see. Boys, would you like a super chat? I guess so. I didn't have to say it all the way. Yeah, Gibson, you're good. See, Gibson was told last time I made him go back because he jumped too soon. That dog is so smart and tries so hard to do what I want, even if he doesn't really understand what it was. If you saw how he paused, like, wait, are you tricking me? You didn't actually say the word all the way? Yeah, you're a very smart boy. You got a dingo. Why's your ear sticking up weird? Wade, on the other hand, is just like, what treat? Thank you so much, Tessa. You guys get your super chat? Good boys. That was fairly gentle. That wasn't a bad one, Wade. Didn't rip off my hand. Okay, go lay down. Go boys. All gone. Lay down. Lay down, Wade. Gibson, lay down. Down. There's no more in my hands. Lay down. Wade. Bad cow. Lay down, baddest of cows. Good boys. Thank you again, Tessa. I have to say that part quietly. T. Seriously, if you ever have the opportunity to get a greyhound, they are the easiest. They're stubborn, super stubborn. But besides that, this is what they generally do all day. Except for Wade. Wade's up more because he has to follow me. Like, he is attached to me. He follows me from room to room, but then he just lays right back down. Like, greyhounds are the laziest, like, they're like me. They just don't move a whole lot. Though they want to be active, they want to go on walks, they want to do that stuff with you, but they're super content just to be lazy. Like, they're known as 45 mile per hour couch potatoes for a reason. They make good apartment dogs too, as long as you take them on walks. This is what they do. Anyway, we need to sign this now. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my liner brush, and then I'll be answering your questions. No, it won't be as Leafy Sea Dragon for this one. That's a lot more work than I can get done in the live stream. A regular seahorse I can do. But I do have a Leafy Sea Dragon lesson over on Patreon that is in watercolor. Maybe that's what you were talking about. So this is why I don't come in on part of the conversation. I miss it. Okay, and I'm just going to use a lighter version of that purple. I'm going to sign over here. The paint is drying, so I keep having to add water and reload the brush. Dolphin tail on the H because I'm calling this marine themed, close enough. And there we go. This guy is ready to go. If anyone wants, I love how this came out. Oh my gosh, this looks good. Let me show you again. No, I am not going to change my mind on the Madagascar cockroach because too many people would be weirded out. Like, I don't even like to post photos of jumping spiders, as cute as they are, because it grosses some people out. Like, there's no way I'm doing, no. No. So let me show you the color of that. You can see a little bit better, and this lighting is very accurate. Oh, I love how this came out. I'm super excited. Not bad for a night that started out off by losing my power. So you can still bid on this. Link is in the video description, $65, and you get an original for your own wall. This will be varnished in a high gloss varnish. It also takes me a ridiculous amount of time to get things sent. Ask anyone who orders from me, especially when I have to varnish it, because then I have to wait for it to dry and then I'll ship it, but I end up still taking longer than I should. Maybe I'll actually remember to varnish tomorrow. Fingers crossed, probably not likely, but we'll see. Anyway, so tonight I had a bunch of questions. There are a couple things I wanted to talk about. First thing I wanted, actually, let me clean this up because this is going to dry up. And there was the lens cap to one of my webcams. Why it was stuck to the palette, I don't know. Yeah, and this, you can bid until 10 p.m. on that painting. Let's scooch these things out of the way. And still, nope, that's a bad idea. I'm trying to scooch this so I don't have to edit that part out. I may have to anyway. What I'm doing by being picky about where this is just trying to make my life easier when I go and edit this later so I don't have the blue. You know what? Let's just move you. Fine, if you can't behave, you just can't sit up here anymore, palette. Let me move you over here. Good enough for now. Okay. So one of the things, something I saw this week on Facebook, it just reminded me, and it's something I want to remind you guys about when you are looking for teachers. We have a tendency, like, I don't know if other areas are like this, but in the US, we push way too hard on kids. You have to go to college. You have to go to college. You do not have to go to college to be successful for many, many careers. It depends on what you want to go into. Trade schools are a great option. Why am I ranting about this? Because I saw a lady, and it reminded me something I hear so often from people. Lady was posting locally that she was offering classes for anywhere from beginner through very advanced. And her work, I looked at it, I was like, huh, kind of odd that you would post that you were advanced. And then she lists out all of her credentials. Her work, honestly, she's going for realism. She's not good at it. Why am I picking on somebody? Because I normally don't do that. Because she was a teacher at the, what is it, San Antonio Art Institute. Here's one of your college professors. Can't paint, can't draw, trying for realism. Terrible at it. And I'm not talking about someone who's going for a stylized look. This is somebody who wanted realism. So if you, I mean, I'm assuming if you watch me, you like realism because that's what I do. Going to college, people think that they're going to go to college and their artwork is going to get better. That is not usually what happens. Usually what happens is they try to get you to paint like whatever they paint like. I'm sorry, I don't want to start looking. No. And this is so common. A lot of these teachers who teach in these colleges are not very good artists themselves. There are some, but the reason that I'm bringing this up is you are just as likely to find a really good art teacher outside of a college as in a college. I would say oftentimes more likely, because most of the really, really successful, really good artists, they're self-taught. Those who are doing realism, most of them that I know are self-taught. There are some exceptions. But the point is, we have in our head, you've got to go to college if you want to be good at art. No, you don't. And in many, 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 many cases, I've known of artists that went to college and their teachers forced them to paint in a style they didn't like. And their work suffered because of it. It basically held them back from progressing in the realism that they were interested in. Now, there are also plenty of stories, to be fair, of people who loved college, loved their teachers, had amazing teachers. They're there. They are out there. But going into debt, hundreds of thousands of dollars to get a degree on a piece of paper, if you're going into studio art, that degree, and people are like, oh, but you get contacts. You can make contacts outside of college. They don't do as much for you as you think they're going to. The promises that are made to art students or students in general when they go into college for, getting a degree in English. I mean, if you're going to be a teacher, yeah, if you want to teach in, public school and different things, you would need that degree. So there is a time for college, but for fine art, I really think it's overall, you are so much better off finding a teacher outside of the college. I cannot tell you how many times I have had students tell me that within a couple of days, like 2-3 classes with me, they learned more than in 4 years of art college. That I hear it all the time when I used to teach in person. I mean, I heard it all the time because we think you're good. I'm going to go to college and I'm going to learn to paint better. My art's going to get better. No, that's not what's generally happening in college. There are exceptions, but they're exceptions. They're not the rule. The rule tends to be more not so great. So and the other thing is I don't want you to feel like I can't afford college, therefore I'm not going to be as successful. No, it's probably the reverse. You're probably going to be better off. But if you can find classes that are a lot, like from teachers that are local to you. You can find people, if you're willing to put in the work, you can find people that can teach you better in many cases than what you would learn in college. So just don't be discouraged thinking, I can't afford to go to college or I don't want to put the money into it. The other thing is, I hate seeing students go into college, go into massive amounts of debt, and they're going to start their art career that way. Most artists that got a degree in art working at Macy's, working at these tiny, like a job that you don't need a degree for. They're in debt and they're not using that degree. And it is so painfully common these days. I hate what our college system has turned into. I think that there was a time, there were some good things about it. And, you know, if you're going for the college experience, great, but do you really need to go into debt for the college experience? What are you actually getting out of that? What are they actually teaching you that you can't learn from books, that you can't learn from videos, that you can't learn from a local teacher? And there are a lot of local teachers teaching classes. Now, the other thing, so I brought up this woman that I was talking about that was teaching in some college in San Antonio. Her work is terrible. I promise you, she cannot teach you what half the artists on YouTube can teach you. She can't paint. If she can't paint, if she can't draw, how the heck is she going to improve your work? She's not. The only benefit you really have is her giving you a deadline on getting stuff done. And that is something that some artists do suffer from, not getting stuff done. You do, in order to do it on your own, you do have to have self-discipline. You have to give yourself deadlines. And a lot of artists don't want that. I want to be free. I want to paint when I'm in the mood. Yeah, no, that's not going to be, you're not going to be a professional artist. You're going to be working at Macy's along with the artist with the art degree. Only you're not in debt for it. So there's that. But don't fall into the idea that is so pushed on people that I want to be an artist, I have to go to college. No, you don't. You absolutely do not. Very, very few professional artists I know went to college for art. Most of us taught ourselves. So there's there's what I say about that. Okay. Now, next, I have some questions that came in over on MeWe. So if you ever have questions that you're not going to be here for the live stream, but you want to ask questions, send them to me on MeWe. That's probably the best place to get a hold of me, that I'll see the questions. So I've got a list of them. This is from Sandra. First question, what is the preferred way to submit questions for the live stream if one cannot participate directly? Through MeWe is probably the best way. Send me a private message on MeWe. Next, how do you decide between pan pastel and watercolor for a background on a colored pencil piece? Depends on what I'm going for. I find if I want a really soft, really blurry background, I'm going to lean towards pan pastel because they are just the easiest medium to get a soft, blurry background from. Like, they might even be easier than airbrushing. It's a toss up. If I'm wanting something, I don't know, more stylized, more brush strokes, that sort of thing, then I'm probably going to lean towards watercolor. Sometimes it's just, I'm thinking, I haven't done watercolor in a while. I want to work in that this time. It may be as simple as that. So it's not like a definite rule I can give you. How about a Lachri Discord server? So Sandra, I believe, is on Patreon. Patrons, you all have access to my Discord. The problem is none of us use it very often. And so because you guys don't post much, I don't end up posting much and I forget about it. But I have it. If you are on Patreon, you have access to the Discord. If you want to chat during the day about, I mean, I can't sit and give critiques. I can't do that. But I mean, for all of us just as artists, if we want to post photos, hey, this is what I'm working on. Hey, what's everyone up to right now? Hey, what tea is your favorite? I don't know, random crap. We can post and chat with each other. So it's not just like talking to me, it's talking to other artists on that Discord through Patreon. If you are $4 or more, you've got access to it. So that is already a thing. We just all need to use it if we want to, because honestly, I forget it's there. Let's see. Next, have you tried watercolor markers? After they've been initially activated with water, they seem to not come off the paper anymore. At least the ones I've got, Faber-Castell Albrecht Dürer watercolor markers, similar to Inktense maybe, but like us, interesting. No, I've not tried them. I'm not going to say that I'm going to run out and get them right away because I already have so many mediums that I'm like behind on. Maybe eventually. Let's see. After finishing a project, I'm trying my best to quickly follow up with a new one, but I keep finding myself scrolling endlessly through reference pictures, unable to decide on anything. I would like to actually get some mileage and not agonize for days or weeks in between projects over what to draw next. Do you have any advice for this? I do. This is a great question. I actually just talked about this on my email newsletter. If you're not already on it, it's free. Link is in the video description. You can sign up there. I email you technically twice a week, 2 times on Wednesday, letting you know about the live stream, but also tips like what I'm going to be talking about here. So if you are struggling in between pieces, one of the things that I talked about in the email, pair of scissors. Whatever room you're in, stop scrolling. When you get into this habit of endlessly scrolling, Pixabay and Unsplash, and there are tons of things to inspire us there, but it's too easy to keep scrolling. So if you hit that wall and you're just like, I can't pick one, whatever room you are in, look to your left. What do you see to draw? I've got a razor blade sitting right here. I draw a razor blade in a sketchbook. do that right now. Like, whatever's next to you. I could draw the water bottle. I could draw the pencil sharpener. I mean, whatever is next to you, start sketching. Because creativity is going to find you working. It's not going to find you sitting at the TV. And I know in this case, Sandra was not saying she's sitting at the TV. She's scrolling endlessly. But it can get to the point, and I've had students do this. So my classes, when I used to teach in person, were 2 hours long. I'd have students spend 2 hours going through reference photos to try to pick one. Pick something, pick anything, get started. It doesn't, we get in this mindset that our next piece has to top our previous piece. It always has to one up. It has to keep getting better. It has to be the next most amazing. No, it absolutely doesn't. You're going to have a lot of in-between filler pieces in between those big amazing pieces. So let's say you just finished something, you loved it. You're trying to think of what to do next. You can't think of anything. Start sketching. Start drawing anything. I can draw my plant over here. I could draw Wade laying in the bed. I could draw whatever. Everyone needs a sketch of Bad Cow in their sketchbook, right? Draw anything. Stop looking. When you realize, oh, I've been looking too long, stop. Start drawing. Because let's say I'm drawing a pair of scissors. My mind can start wandering. What if there was an octopus holding these scissors? What else would that octopus be holding? Your mind starts to wander from one thing to another, but that creativity is going to find you working. Yes, going through Pixabay and Unsplash is helpful, but you will hit a point where you're just nothing. And trust me, I do this all the time. I did it recently. I could not think of anything for a live stream one day. My brain was just, I'm looking through all these photos. I'm like, no, no, no. Somebody left a comment while I was searching over on YouTube requesting, I forget what it was specifically that they wanted. Done. That was easy. You just gave me something to do. I just needed something, anything. Don't keep scrolling. Sometimes you just end up in that endless loop. Go ahead and draw whatever's next to you. And while you're drawing, it could be a coffee cup. Well, what could I add in the coffee cup? Should there be an apple sitting next to it? What if there's something inside? What if there's a fish inside the coffee cup? What if you go through these what ifs as you're sketching? That's the exercise you want to be doing, and it will get all of your creativity flowing, but you've got to be working. Okay, let's go on to... Rose said, I can't find any mention of the Discord at all, and Patreon definitely didn't link it to me. How do we access it? You know what? I will make a post on Patreon tonight or tomorrow. If I don't, somebody message me because I forget everything. But I need to find out exactly how to make sure you guys get into it easily. Because I think it's when you sign up. I don't know, honestly. I will find that out and figure out how to make that happen. Okay. So let's go on to your questions. Again, you can still bid on the sunset painting. That is, I guess I can stay there. That's what it's on. But that is still available, $65 over on my website. And let's see, questions. Andrew said, question about powdered blender. Can you use Spectrafix instead of the brush and pencil texture fixative? I would not. It's not intended for that. And I don't know how that's going to react. I mean, you can test it and try it and see what happens, but I genuinely don't know what results you're going to get with that because that was formulated for those products, like to work together. So I don't know because it wasn't made for that product. So I don't want to tell you, yeah, sure, go for it. I mean, you can test it and see what happens, but I can't guarantee you're going to get the same. Actually, I can pretty much guarantee you won't get the same results because it's not the same product. So that would be questionable. D-Lin Creative Art said, I noticed the color is more accurate on my phone versus my TV. It's so beautiful. Thank you. Art of Raven D said, I don't talk to people often, but a couple of times I have recommended your Patreon. These people ask me to teach them, but I don't teach well. Plus, you have way more useful content than I. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Like, more than you can possibly know. Drayden's World said, have you used Copics? Only in little sketches, and I'm not going to bother with them. They're extremely expensive, and they're not light fast. Not for me. So I understand why some people love them, but they're just not for me. This is light is blind. No, wrong light. You are blinding me. Like you can be on, but not that on. Okay. Let's see. Art of Raven D said, have you heard of Treckle Art Supplies? That sounds familiar. I have their panels, especially getting coffin panels during October. They have Pet Portrait Challenge going on right now too. Interesting. No, that name sounds familiar, but I don't really know anything about it. Lavina said, what month is the Margay for? That is going to be July. No, that will be June that goes out in July is going to be the Margay. June that goes out. I'm writing that down before I forget. Margay. And then I believe it's the leopard is going to be June that goes out in July. No, wait. No, the leopard is going to be May that goes out in June. Margay will be June that goes out in July. So if you haven't signed up and you're just now signing up, you still can get in on that Margay. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, the Patreon rewards, depending on what tier you're on, you get a mini print. The Margay is one coming up that a lot of people liked. We have the mini print, you get a postcard, you get a sticker for the $19 tier. The $9 and $14 tier get a postcard, and then your $14 tier gets the coloring pages. That's just downloadable. So you've got different rewards there. So that's what we're talking about if you're like, what in the world? Alice said, would you explain how to transfer from a hobbyist to a professional? Like, when is the right time to start a website instead of a blog? And how many paintings do you need for a gallery? What do you mean by gallery? So some people think going to a gallery to sell their artwork, and a gallery may want you to have completed a certain amount of paintings. As a general rule, honestly, once you've completed about 100 paintings or drawings, you're probably pretty consistent in your style. You're probably pretty consistent in how long it takes you to do. You know how to fix mistakes. Like, you're experienced at, you've done 100 projects. But that doesn't mean, I know of people who started selling on their third or fourth painting, and people wanted it. So I don't want to give you the impression that, like, oh, until you've done 100, you shouldn't do it. But 100 is like, if you've done 100 and you're not selling yet, you need to go ahead and start. You're ready, because you have definitely developed your style. You've developed your, like, everything should have been really coming together at that point. But like I said, I know of people 3-4 paintings in, and people want them. People want to buy them. Have you had people ask to buy your work? That's a good sign. If someone wants to pay you money, you're ready. Go ahead and go for it. And even if you're not sure, go ahead and adjust. If you've had a blog, adjust your blog so that you do have paintings available for sale, whether they're on, like, let's say you didn't have it on your own website, you could try it on Etsy and then link to it. Worst case scenario, not that I'm a huge Etsy fan, but I like to shop there. I don't personally use it to sell my work because issues with them. But those are some options for you to link so you can sell stuff. But no, I think go ahead and list them. What's the worst that happens? They don't sell? I've had paintings that will take 10 years before the right buyer comes and sees them and connects with that painting and wants to buy it. So it's not even like, oh, it didn't sell, no one likes it. I mean, it takes time. Selling artwork is not easy, and it takes marketing, and it takes all of that stuff. But yeah, as a general, let's say you're going to go to start displaying your work in actual art galleries, like an established, a professional art gallery. Having done 100 paintings is a really good place to start, because you have just refined your skills at that point. That doesn't mean you can't be selling the previous 100. I'm just saying, if you've gotten to that point, you are pretty well refined. I mean, heck, even at 50, you're pretty much coming into yourself as an artist at that point. So if people are willing to buy it, go for it. And using professional materials. If you're selling your work, just make sure you're already using the light, fast materials at that point if you think that you may be ready to sell. So your light, fast materials, archival quality paper, all of that stuff, so that it's going to last. But yeah, it depends on where you're at right now. It's not going to be the same for every artist. That is absolutely for sure. There are some people, they just like come out of the gate, they've already practiced. And this is the thing too. I say that, but I don't want you to make you think like, oh, some artists are just instantly good. No, what likely happened is that artists, their entire childhood was drawing nonstop very seriously. Their entire teenage year, spent more time drawing than going out with friends. So, I mean, I don't want to make it sound like I was a complete shut-in, but I spent an insane amount of time. So by the time I hit the point where I decided I wanted to be a professional, I had hundreds. I had already drawn so many things. So I would say, maybe not 100. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It was a lot. But we have a tendency to look at somebody and think, oh, they just started and their work is so amazing. Mine's never going to be that good. They've probably been doing it longer, just behind the scenes. You didn't realize, because they probably weren't posting the beginner stuff on, their progress wasn't always posted online. So we think that people are just instantly good, when the reality is they put in the work. They just had been putting in the work quietly behind the scenes. But yeah, it's going to depend on each artist and where you're at, but there are some tips for you to consider. There's, again, no one size fits all. Pick and choose from that what you think might fit you. But it's not going to hurt either to just do it now. Like, it doesn't sell, it doesn't sell. No biggie. No biggie. Art of Raven D said, I learned better on my own than my high school teacher. To be honest, I wish you were my teacher when I was young. Sure, I learned on my own, but teacher who's actually good would have been nice. Yeah, it definitely, if you can find a good teacher, also thank you, but if you can find a good teacher, you will certainly learn faster. It's not that you can't learn on your own, it's that you will learn so much faster if you find someone who can explain things in a way that you're like, oh, I see what you're doing there. Oh, that makes sense the way you're layering that. So yeah, and that's where I go back to that artist that was teaching, that was a college teacher. She can't teach that because she doesn't know that. She doesn't know how to do it. And why? Probably because she learned in college too. And they don't, and that, again, more proof. College, in order for her to have been teaching at the college she was teaching at, she would have had to have gone to college, where she also did not learn to paint because her professor most likely was not good at painting or drawing. So it's just the assumption that going to college to get better is a guarantee. It is not. That is a whole lot of debt for something that is not a guarantee at all. Okay. I'm never going to let that go. Let's see. How long should I wait before I varnish my acrylic paintings? Is one day long enough drying time? Thanks. Really enjoy your live shows. Rose Kaz? I just butchered your name and I'm sorry, and it looks beautiful. 1 day is good. I usually will dry it and then I wait because sometimes things will be mostly dry, but it didn't cure all the way and you add the varnish and you'll get a streak. I've had that happen when I signed my name the same day. Way too many times. So yeah, I wait overnight like this. I would love to varnish it on camera so you guys can see what, but I don't want to risk ruining it, especially if somebody wants to buy it. So, which you can still bid right now on my website, link in the description. So yeah, that is, by the next day, you're fine with acrylics. Alice said, how do you recommend an artist find their right audience? And do I need a certain niche or just draw what you feel like? That is a great question. First, I think you want to draw what you love. If you draw because you think someone else is going to like it, it 100% shows in your work. Your work will be so much better if you are drawing what you're interested in. When I teach classes, especially if it was young, like I remember one teenage boy used to come. He wanted to draw cars. It's not my thing, but that's what he was interested in. So that's what I want to work with him on. He's not going to want to draw the same rows I often start some of the adult women on. It's not interesting to him, or it was, in his case, it just very much was not interesting to him. So I let the student go by what they're interested in. They learn faster. And in your case, what you are interested in. If you're painting for it'll show in your work. It just does. Paint what you love and then find people who love that same thing. So let's say you like orchids. Is there an orchid group, maybe on Facebook, an orchid forum that'll allow you to share your artwork? Maybe, maybe not. Some don't. Some will do like a vendor day where they'll allow you to sell. Like for me, I paint a lot of marine life. There are saltwater groups that have certain like Vendor Friday or Vendor Monday where I'm allowed to post. I have prints of this available. So some groups will allow that on Facebook. And I hate promoting Facebook because I hate them. You could also make your own groups on MeWe. But you want to find what you love and then find other people who love the same thing you love. Where would you hang out? So let's say you're really into orchids. Where do you hang out? Do you go to orchid shows? Great. If there's an orchid show, get a booth there. Get your work in front of the people who like orchids. This is one of the ways that you can find your crowd. Dogs. I used to show my Italian Greyhounds, and I was doing a lot of pet portraits. Get a booth at a dog show. Advertise to your friends who are dog show people, who also have dog show friends, and they'll share their painting with them, and you get word of mouth that way. Get into those groups where the people who love what you love also are. And that's why another reason I think it's a great idea to paint what you love. So let's say you're really into motorcycles. If you're in a motorcycle group, you have an in. You know those people. If you show dogs, if you do agility with dogs, if you're into dog rescue, you have an in with those people because it's what you're already into. And I think that's such a huge benefit to painting what you love because it's going to make it easier for you. You know where those people are. You're one of them. So that is my suggestion there. Let's see. Paul said, speaking of galleries, what are some hard truths for up-and-coming artists who want to do the gallery route? How do we prep? you're going to be turned down a lot. You will be turned down more than you're accepted into a gallery. Don't give up. Keep trying. There was one gallery owner, a friend of mine was telling me this story. Guy came in, showed him his work. He wanted a display, and the gallery owner could recognize, like, this kid's going to be good. He's just not there yet. Told him, you go paint 100 paintings, or 200. I forget what he told him. He gave him a number. And he said, you paint that many? And then I want you to come back to me. And the kid left. He was all dejected, but he did it. He did what he was told, painted 200, whatever it was, came back and showed the guy, and the gallery owner was like blown away. Like, he knew he just needed to he needed to spend the time painting more to refine that more. But if you're going to get into galleries, you are going to get rejected a lot. And a lot of the galleries don't like realism as much. They typically will go for something that is more stylized, something that's more impressionistic or abstract, is what I find sells better at galleries. The other thing is, listen to the gallery owner. See if you can get somebody who works there who will take the time to talk to you, because they know what their customers are looking for. If most of their customers want this more modern, abstract look, it makes no sense for them to try to sell your roses, because that's not what their customers are looking for. Don't be discouraged when a gallery owner tells you no, that it's not a fit for. They know what they're going to sell. They're not going to take up wall space with something they know is not going to sell. But I think it is very important to know you are going to be told no far more often than somebody accepts your work. Like, and it doesn't mean you're not good. And it doesn't mean you won't be even better. It just means right now what you are producing is not what that gallery can sell. And they, like I said, they know what they can sell. The other thing with galleries, they take a huge cut, like 50% minimum. Some take far more than that. Most galleries are going to take such a huge cut of the painting. Now, I find that I like galleries better for selling large pieces because people can see it in person. It's more impactful. It is very hard for me to sell a large, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 painting online that somebody's not seen in person. Plus, it's hard to ship when it's larger. But the smaller ones, like under 1,000 are easier for me to, and 1,200 are easier for me to sell. So that's another thing. There are bonuses to selling in galleries. I don't want to make it sound like you should just write them off. Doing art shows, doing things where you're in person or the gallery has their work is much easier if you like to work large, but that large painting also better be really good. So no one wants a very large painting of a beginner's work. Keep that in mind too. So those are just a few thoughts there. Oh, we've got a bid for the painting. Yay. Oh, it looks like a couple bids for the painting. Okay. Now we have Crafty Aaron said, I just joined Patreon end of May and I'm already learning so much. Thank you. Yay, I'm so glad to hear that. Yay. I got goosebumps. I'm all excited. Like, seriously. That one's not as bad. That arm's worse. Moving on. No one cares, Lisa. Paul said, wait, did I get that one? Paul said, speaking of traditional galleries, because some gallery managers are very snooty when receiving portfolios and bodies of work, should doing some research on a gallery's background? Absolutely. The more you know, it's like going for any job interview. The more you know about the company, the better off you are. You walk in off the street and you're like, oh, I hear you sell paintings. I got some paintings. They're going to be like, get out. Like, I'm not, no. Absolutely research, and that can help you too because you know what that gallery sells, what they're looking for. That really does matter. And you may need to start out at, there are some galleries that will showcase beginner art. Now, I forget the name of the gallery. It's over in Frisco, and she just started up again too, which is hilarious. But she calls herself an art curator, and I don't have a lot of respect for what she does because she doesn't protect the paintings. So this is somebody who was trying to do normal, like get professionals in, but I guess she wasn't getting enough professionals. So she was like, oh, I'm going to bring in beginner artists too and mix them in with the professionals' work. And all the professionals are like, no, I'm not displaying my work next to the beginner who it looks like they painted it with their knees. Not happening. I was one of those professionals who was like, never again. The other thing is, in that case with the woman who was okay with like super beginner, like you just picked up your first paintbrush 2 days ago, she would hang that artwork. She did not protect the paintings. They were getting damaged in her possession because she didn't know how to take care of them. I don't know what kind of, I guess, supposedly she went to school for it, but she doesn't know how to take care of the art. And people, I saw, they had a big event at this gallery and people were leaning on the wall against the artwork, against the stretched canvases, there were charcoal drawings displayed that were not framed behind glass, just charcoal people could put their hands across, which is so unprofessional for the artist, and that the gallery accepted that. I don't want anything to do with a gallery that is not going to take my work seriously. No. So you have I want to give a warning about that on galleries that are willing to take in the beginner. You know, you've been painting 2 days, come on in. Those are not, no, I don't think they're even worth your time. I don't think you're likely to sell much. I don't think the customers obviously the customers didn't respect the art. So it was, and she was kind of weirdly enough snooty because she liked her whole, I'm an art curator. No, you're not. You're a disaster curator, creator, both is what you are. But yes, point is, you want to do your research because do you really, I mean, you can always say you never know, maybe they'll take it. But do you really want to waste your time going in to a gallery who you know you don't create what they're looking for? You know they never have shown artwork that looks like yours. That's like, again, when you do realism, it's a little bit harder with a lot of these galleries because you have to be so, if you do realism, you have to be so insanely good at your realism before a gallery would even consider you. You can't, like, I feel like a lot of times abstract doesn't need to refine their skills quite as much as realism does in order for a gallery to want to even consider you. So it is a challenge, but yeah, do your research and see what they're selling because you can save yourself a lot of time if you already know that gallery never has work like yours. So, you know, kind of scope out different galleries that might be of interest to you and work towards that. If they display work that you like and you think yours could be better and eventually get in there, then yeah, definitely, again, research that, find that information out. Yeah, and they can be very snooty. And another thing with the portfolios, we have a tendency to want to bring in a portfolio of every work we've ever done. Here's 30 paintings for you to look at. Here's 50, 100 paintings for you. They're going to look at 2, maybe 3. They're going to flip through and be done for the most part. So, you know, maybe bring in less than 10. You do not want more than 10. And make sure you've got your best stuff, best of the best of the best, because chances of them even flipping to the page of your best is not likely. I would rather see less work, but really, really good work than 100 crappy things. You don't need to show them everything you've done. You want to show them the best, and you want to show them the stuff that, because you did the research, you want to show them the stuff that you think will fit best with their galleries, with their clientele. Okay. Vibes Aquatic said lurking and water changes. That's funny. That's when I watch live streams too, when I do my water change. It's Tuesday night for me. Let's see. Sonic the Hedgehog said, your intro to airbrush alone was no BS and direct to the point. How do you do that? Why are you more effective than other teachers I had who could not explain clearly? A few reasons. One, I was self-taught. So it's like when I learned, I didn't learn using the lingo that some of the other artists were using. Like I went basic. I make up my own words half the time too. So I don't know. I mean, I'm that basic. I'm just going to make stuff up. But I also was teaching kids very early on. When I first started teaching, I was teaching a combination, sometimes adults, sometimes kids. But working with kids, working with preteens and teenagers especially, I had to learn to word things in a way. And I taught for, God, 15 years teaching in person, something like that. I taught for so many years in person. It's very different, especially online, or somebody who may be good but hasn't been teaching as long. You quickly learn by looking at somebody's face when you're explaining it. You pick up on their cues of them looking at you like, the heck are you talking about? That makes no freaking sense. So I had to learn very quickly, how do I word this to where they get it? I need to reword this in a different way that they understand. And I think that that's what worked for me in learning to teach very well, is that I taught in person for so many years and could see their faces and know, every time I word it like this, no one understands what I'm talking about. So for me, I think that's what made me really good at teaching, was teaching in person and teaching kids. The adults help too, but especially the kids, because they really, good luck keeping their attention, first of all. That is always a challenge with children. But yeah, wording it so they understood, you get good at it when you're watching their face go completely blank. And you have to figure out a new way to word that. Let's see. But I also, because I taught myself, I learned the hard way. I learned what not to do and why not to do it. Whereas sometimes when somebody only learned by watching other videos, they learned the right way the first time. I know how to fix everything, because if a mistake could be made, I have made it multiple times. So I think that helps too. Let's see. Dolphin Soul said, on varnishing, what do you do in humid temperatures, since the varnish doesn't suggest to do it, but it's like always humid here in Florida? Can you run your AC? Check if you've got a room. I mean, a dehumidifier is always an option. It gets humid here in Dallas, but not quite as humid as what you've got in Florida, so you may want to run a dehumidifier in that room. Might be an option for you, depending on how humid it is. Like here, 50% humidity, I'm fine. Like that's usually what it is in here, so it's fine. Let's see. Fly Beneath the Moon said, I just joined too. Absolutely love that fox in acrylic. I'm going to do it. Yay! Which one? There were two. There were two? No, wait. One was oil over acrylic, I think. So it's probably the one with the blue background. Janice said, I have a set of Pace and colored pencils. They say they are good to very good light fast ratings. Do you think they are good or not? I do have Derwent light fast colored pencils. So when a company, I've never heard of that company, but when a company says they're very good or good, that's a red flag. This could be the exception. Absolutely. I'm not always right. It happens. Don't tell my husband. But most of the companies, like, did you buy it on Amazon? It's probably not light fast. So a lot of these companies will advertise great light fastness, but they can't provide the ratings. And I've contacted some of the companies. They're like, yeah, we didn't test. They just make that claim without testing. Like, there's no standard that requires them to actually test. Like, so it's very like, yeah. So I've never heard of that brand. I'm going to go ahead and assume probably they're not. I could be wrong, but I'm probably not. I would contact the company, and don't just contact them and be like, oh, did you light fast? I want to know what the light fast ratings are on each pencil. If they cannot provide that, I promise you they did not do light fast testing, because a company that goes through the trouble, light fast testing is freaking expensive to do properly. If they did it, they are going to be screaming those results from the rooftops. So if they're not like, this pencil is an 8 on the Blue Wool scale, this one's a 5. If they can't provide that to you, Blue Wool or ASTM, they are full of crap. Not light fast. Keep them for your sketchbook. Let's see. Denise said, is canvas board considered a professional substrate? Yes, but I will also say, remember the lady I was just talking about who's like, I'm a curator. She hated anything done on canvas board or panel. Yet her own artist son, who was he would take like newspaper and glue and things, just a bunch of stuff that was not archival, and that was his art. Wait, you're going to judge the panel? But let's say in a gallery setting, I'm going to frame. I will always frame, because you can't hang it as it is. You can't just paint the edges and hang it like that. I mean, it's a board. So you put it in an open frame. It looks the same as a canvas, like as long as it's framed. So that's the, somebody moved over there. That's the thing with those, is that you do, if I'm going to display them at an art gallery, if I'm going to display them at an art show, they absolutely need to be framed to look more professional. But the surface is fine. It's archival. That is all that matters. So there. I mean, it's kind of the same thing where you have people who insist that an oil painting is worth more than an acrylic painting because la-di-da. No, that's not how, no. No. What happened is you had some artists who painted in oils and built a really good name for themselves, and their paintings tend to sell for more, but that doesn't mean that an artist who built a good name for themselves and happened to work in acrylics and built a good name for themselves wouldn't sell for just as much. So it's kind of the same thing with the panels. Just for, as long as they're in a nice open frame, they're fine. Let's see. One of the benefits too with these, it doesn't cost as much to ship. It'll be under $15 for me to ship this. If it was a stretch canvas, I have to use a different box. It's going to cost a lot more. Most of the time, these are closer to $12 within the US, $10 to $12 to ship an 8x10 like this. And I just wrap it in cardboard, and it is very easy to ship compared to a stretch canvas. So added bonus there. And then the buyer can frame it however they want. Alice said, how can I draw faster and produce more art without sacrificing quality? I feel like I work very slow in comparison to other artists. I'm self-taught, and sometimes it takes longer to get the look I want. Can't rush it. The more you paint, faster you're going to get naturally. It's not something you can be like, I'm going to paint fast. It just doesn't work. Paint more. And I know that's not the answer you want, but there's not really another alternative. More experience is going to help you to paint faster. And maybe I do have some advice. Give yourself a deadline to get something done. That paint, I'm going to do an 8x10, and maybe it's not your big elaborate piece. Listen, I'm going to do an 8x10, and I'm going to get it done this week, or I'm going to get it done in 2 days. Whatever it is, you can work in a sketchbook or get like a sketch pad and time yourself. I'm going to spend only 10 minutes. I'm going to spend only 20 minutes. I'm going to limit, and it just helps you. It's going to give you more experience quickly, but you're also not worried about every last detail of being perfect. It is providing you with more painting experience though. with less time. So that may be a way that you can go, that you will start, because you're painting more, you're going to start speeding up your skill. But when you work on your big piece, your elaborate pieces, take the time. Don't try to rush those. Rush the ones you're timing, like I'm going to do a quick 10-minute sketch in a sketchbook. Like you can get a sketchbook, gesso it, and then you can paint in it. Let's say you're working in acrylics, oils. You can do that in a sketchbook, sketchbook, as long as you've gessoed the paper. So that would be a way, like just tiny little things. I'm just going to do it really quick. You're going to get more experience because you're doing so much that way. But yeah, painting more is really the answer. As far as when you're working on your big detailed stuff, you just have to take your time. It is what it is. So yeah, I don't know how helpful that is. It's a good question. Dolphin Soul said, but isn't it suggested to varnish outside to be safe from fumes? Sorry if a dumb question. If you're using it, that is a good question too. If you're using a spray varnish, yes. I almost never use spray varnishes. I kind of hate them because I don't like them. I have a very hard time getting it even. You have to use a whole can to get the gloss as high as I want. Just all around, no for me. So I don't have it over here. I use Liquitex high gloss varnish, and I use that indoors. And I can't smell anything. So I mean, I wouldn't use any of these paint supplies around my canary because they are so sensitive, but like as far as in here with my frogs, my bearded dragon, me, my dogs, we're all fine. I don't use any, I'm super paranoid with canaries, but yeah, there you go. Let's see. You're welcome, Denise. Sonic the Hedgehog says, exactly, thank you for being the best art teacher. None of my art teachers taught like you do, maybe because you didn't follow a syllabus like in a typical classroom setting. I think that's it. And one of the things I found, I learned better from doing a project. And so that's how I teach. You notice I don't have a bunch like, here's your shading lesson. I want you to shade from light to dark in a straight line. Like, I don't do that. I teach you in a project because that's what worked for me. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to work the best for everybody, but I don't like the little filler stuff. I like, let's jump into a project. Occasionally I'll do a small study, but let's do the project. And that made sense to me. So that's why I teach that way versus like my 800-year-old teacher taught me this and his 900-year-old teacher taught him that way. And it goes back generation after generation yes, I think I'm that old, after generation. I figured it out on my own, what worked for me, and then I just share that with you guys. So everyone learns differently. Sonic the Hedgehog said, I think the typical classroom standard operating procedure is outdated. Oh, in every possible way you can imagine. Like from like the little ones all the way high school into college, our system, why don't we teach kids things that are useful, like how to balance a checkbook? How much one of the things I was taught, and they just don't teach this anymore, was how much money I needed to make per hour in order to afford my own apartment. I don't know anyone who was taught something like that. I was taught how to write or fill out a check. I mean, no one uses a checkbook, but or writes checks anymore. But I mean, how to balance your bank account, how to budget, there are useful skills we don't teach kids. Our school system, like, here, we're going to make you learn all this math, but we're going to do it in bizarre manners instead of teaching you in a way like, hey, this is how to factor in your bills and just your income and your finances. Like, our entire system is trash the way we are teaching right now. Seriously, like beginning of school, 5-year-olds, all the way up through college. I just have a huge issue with the way our entire school system is, and it's just getting worse. But anyway, that's a whole other rant. Let's see. Whoops. Denise said, do you find value in art journals, and have you ever had one? I have one, and actually I have multiples. I love the idea, and I never have time to do them. Like, I will set a goal for myself. I did it recently at the beginning of the year. I'm going to sit down, I'm going to do a quick sketch every morning. Yeah, I don't do that. I did it like a week, and then maybe 2 weeks, and then I just don't. So yeah, I think they're super useful. I think there's so many benefits to them, and I just don't find myself doing it. So I do as I say, not as I do. It just, yeah. Let's see. Yeah, Blue said kids should absolutely be taught financial literacy. Like, it's just crazy to me what we teach. Like, I won't go into it. Anyway, do I like Copics or have I tried them? I have tried them. I don't like them. They're not light fast. They're incredibly expensive for a product that's not light fast. Now it makes sense, certain styles of artwork, you know, the illustrations and stuff, I get it, but I'm not going to sell anything with that. Like, they are not light fast. So I'm not going to invest in them. I'm not going to buy them. That is not even a medium I'm remotely interested in, because no. What time are we at? We've still got 6 minutes. Let me know if you've got more questions. We got 6 more minutes, 5 more minutes. Art of Raven D said, my brother's art class had him doing shading exercises on worksheets that reminded me of math sheets. Art classes didn't seem art at all to me. No art paper or anything. I was appalled. Like, the one thing that I would do with students who were brand new to graphite, I will say I did one class, only once, a 1-2 hour course, and sometimes they only needed 30 minutes of this practice. Sometimes they needed a little longer. But I would have them shade a circle so they could learn how to get that more 3-dimensional look, or so it was a sphere, and shade flat, light to dark, just so they learned how the pencils worked. And that's if somebody had no experience. And like I said, sometimes right away they do it once, they already know how to do it, no problem, we'll move on. But then we jump into the project. But I always do one lesson where, just if you've never used graphite before, I should do that for Patreon so you guys have that if you've never used graphite before type thing. It's a real quick lesson, but it's just good practice if somebody has never tried shading before. I was not taught how to shade. I took an art class my freshman year in high school, and yeah, they didn't teach us anything at all. No shading, no any. We were expected to know how to do it, but they didn't show us how, so I didn't know how. I'm just drawing my outlines all detailed, thinking that's how you draw. And yeah, she didn't like my work, but didn't tell me. Another student was like, oh no, you have to shade that. What? She didn't teach me. She didn't tell me. I'd never heard of shading. I didn't know anything about it. I've been drawing my whole life, but not shading. So yeah, other students taught me, because the teacher couldn't be troubled. Dan Gonzalez said, hey Lisa, what are your thoughts on cheap charcoal? I used, and well, the boys get a reward for that. I use Generals. It's not I don't know what's cheaper than that. Is there something cheaper than that? I use Generals. I love Generals. I haven't used much charcoal I didn't like. I can't imagine there being a really bad one. I could be wrong, but every charcoal I've used was fine. So, but let me go ahead, because the super chat means you boys want a super chat? We, of course, have to reward them. But yeah, the charcoal question, I don't, thank you very much, Dan, for the super chat. I've not used a charcoal that I hated, but I know for certain I love Generals. There you go. Say thank you, Dan, for the super chat. Good boys. Okay, go to your bed. Go lay down. Lay down. Good boys. Lay down. Oh, Dan said he thinks praying is cheaper. I don't know that. Are you going to choke on it? Good job. I should buy some. Wade, lay down. Gibson, lay down. You boys inhale those too fast? That's what happens. I should buy some praying, because they're so cheap, and test it. I'm going to get back to you on that. I'm going to buy some. As much as I'm like, I'm not going to buy more art supplies. Yeah, but praying is super cheap. I'm curious now what the difference is. Yeah, we all need to find out. I'm going to do that soon. Dolphin Soul said, what do you do with all of your older creations that you haven't sold? Basically, any storage ideas. I keep some in art, like portfolios, the acid-free one, like the folders, and then most of mine are in these boxes I get from, do I have one I can easily, no, they're all under other things. But I get these boxes, they have to be acid-free, or, you know, archival, and I just stack them with a piece of glassine in between each sheet. So that's what I do for anything done on paper. And then for canvases, they're all stored like vertically, and they have, I make these like pillowcase type things with them, but it's with a more felt type fabric, and they're wrapped in that to help prevent any scuffing or scraping or anything like that. And they're all stacked up on those cheap IKEA shelves that you build yourself. They're like just the wood poles basically, or wood things. Yeah, that's what I do with those, so that I can, I just have a bunch of canvases on that. If you look at my studio tour, I think that I showed that closet where they're all lined up. I think in my studio tour, I showed all of that. Fly Me to the Moon said, I had to change computers, so maybe you answered my question. I've not done a pencil piece before. I'm on Patreon. Where do you recommend I start? Let's find out. Let's go look real quick. Lachri.com/Patreon. Oh, that's not going to be it's Patreon. Is it dash videos? I don't remember. I don't think that's the right. Oh, I got it right. And I'm going to go down to graphite. Let's see. The roses. Any of the roses are going to be really good projects because you're learning the folds on there. There's a almost 3-hour rose in graphite that is really good. Any of them, actually, both of those would be fine. One of them was a live stream, and then one was a more fully edited one. So either of those are going to be good. Yeah, the roses for sure. The flamingo would be good. Yeah, the roses or the flamingo would be my suggestion to get you started with graphite. Because they give you, like, you're learning shading, you're learning highlights, you're learning how to get the lights, the darks, all of that. But also, like, let's say your petals aren't shaped right. It still looks like a rose. It's still going to look good and you're still going to feel good about yourself. And I think that's important when you're learning a medium. I would not suggest starting with an animal or with a person, because if it doesn't, like, if the eyes aren't quite right, it's pretty noticeable. If your petals aren't quite right, not noticeable at all. You're just getting a feel for the medium. So I don't want you worrying too much about the drawing being absolutely the best thing in the world. I want you just getting the hang of the shading, the highlights and the shadows and contrast and your values and all that. That's pretty much just a whole lot of different words that mean the same thing, but I like to talk. So get one of those would be, I think, the best to start. We're at 10:01, so we're going to wrap this up. I've got a few more questions I'll answer really quick. Flaming Moon said, okay, I got that one. Got that one. Is it archival to varnish colored pencil, graphite, and charcoal with Gambar gloss varnish? I wouldn't. I don't even know what that would do to the work. Do it on a small test, but it's not meant for that, so I would not personally. But I'm saying that out of complete ignorance. There may be people who are like, yeah, no, it works, and this is how to do it. I just don't know. It would smudge graphite. It would smudge colored pencil. It would definitely smudge charcoal. Like, no, I don't see that working on any of those, but I've not tried. So Dolphin Soul said, by the way, did you take off the Firefly canvas from your store? I emailed you about you. Did you? I don't think there's a Firefly canvas, so I need to read those emails. I haven't gotten to that. There's not an original on there, so it shouldn't be fine. You can't buy an original through, if it was through Fine Art America, you can't buy my originals. It would be a canvas, like, it would just be what Fine Art America is charging. So if that's what it is, but if it's my own personal shop, is it on there? I don't even know if it's on. I need to look into that. Message me again. Send me a link to what it was. You might have already done that and I missed it. Anyway, we are all done. Thank you guys so much for joining tonight. Thank you for whoever won the painting, which that should have ended by now. Did it end? It doesn't say it ended. Did you go to spam? You could have gone to spam. I might have to go. Sometimes. Why is it not ending me? Telling me that it ended. Hold on. I need to check my stuff because I might have to shut it down or like tell it that it's over if it didn't get the right time. Normal auction, new winning bid. Okay, so it win. Congratulations to the winner of the painting of the palm trees. And I think we are good. Thank you again for everyone who joined. Thank you, Nick. And we've got Nick, Clark Fine Art, and Joseph. The Art of Joseph Fincham, I think is his name. There was something else in my brain. The gesture is what was just coming up in my head. Their links to their channels are all listed in the video description. And I'm definitely forgetting something and I don't know what it is. I will see you next week. We will be doing either watercolor or watercolor pencils. Let me know what you prefer. Of a seahorse by request. I'm going through all of your guys' requests. And I always forget something important and then kick myself because I forgot. I don't know what it is. Whatever. I guess we're done. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you next week. Bye.
Hey, you. Yes, you. I see all your unused art supplies over there. Oh my god, those brushes aren't even opened yet. Tragic. You keep buying new fancy materials, but you don't use them because you don't want to waste them. Stop making your art supplies sad. Sign up for art lessons for as little as $4 a month. There are over 300 painting and drawing lessons available when you sign up and new ones every week. Patreon.com/Lachri.